Vidvishavahi. Om Shanti Shanti. We were studying verses 45 and 46 of the 18th chapter, particularly verse 46, where Krishna tells us that our day-to-day work in society can become a worship of the divine. That divine is there in man and in nature. Therefore, it can have that kind of worship. If the divine is a faraway entity outside this universe, then such a worship is not possible. But he is the inner self of all, inner self of the universe. So the last 2 Sundays, we studied the vast relevance of this wonderful teaching for all men and women. We work. We can't escape from work. As I said last Sunday, in modern industrial society, we have divorced work from joy. Work is drudgery. In industrial civilization, work has become a drudgery. And we seek joy outside work. It was not so in the pre-industrial society. Work was part of human life. And a human being had an intrinsic value. He or she expressed it in his or her work. That work is certainly great and noble, which can express my very soul. Soulful work, we call it. In our history you will find artisans building great temples. They know they are doing a great work. They are not their employees or wage earners. They do get wages, but they know the importance of the work that they do. They are creating something of great beauty, great sanctity. Now there you can see the higher dimension of man coming out of work. That is what has been blighted in modern approach to the problem of work and worker in industrial civilization. When this started in the 18th century, these concepts came in. Factors of production: land, labor, capital, commodity. These are all factors of production. And labor also is a factor of production, which can be purchased with money. The whole status of man goes down thereby. But that has been ruling the concept of work in industrial society. And its extreme form is every worker feeling work is a drudgery. We have to do it, we have to fill our belly. It has no other spiritual value. This abstraction of spiritual values from work has gone to the highest level in modern society. That is why as soon as the 5-day work is over, everybody rushes out to go to some mountain or some sea resort to get a little joy in life. Till then it was all drudgery. So this is the great wrong that we are doing. both the worker and the work. And in our modern societies, there is one country which has still kept a spiritual value to the worker concerned. That is the Japanese industry, where taking Western technological developments, the Japanese also give value to the labor item of the factors of production. A concern for the labor. They are human beings. They have their own goals to achieve. Our industry will help them in that line. So they introduce a spiritual value in the industrial production. It sounds very strange for Western ears, but it has shown greater productivity, greater efficiency in management. And so plenty of books are coming out, written by Americans and others, about this highly competitive nature of American production, giving place to the more competitive strength of the Japanese industry. I have a book which I read some time ago, The Art of Japanese Management by Pascal and Athos. A wonderful book. There you will find this idea brought in. The shloka in the Gita, which we studied last 2 Sundays, 46. Yatah pravartit bhutanam yena sarvamidam tatam sakarmana tamabhyarchya siddhim vindati manavaha. This human being attains perfection by worshipping that reality from whom the universe has come, in whom the universe rests. By one's own work, we worship him, worship that reality. That is a tremendous statement. Its relevance in industrial production is brought out by the Japanese example by these 2 writers, where he mentions there, this industrial revolution in the West brought about this cleavage. Man from work. Work becomes something purchasable. Man also becomes purchasable, a commodity. That has come in a big way. We cannot escape it, it is there. But the only way we can do is to bring some spiritual value into our industrial management practices. That was what the Japanese did. And these writers refer to the Japanese philosophy of industrial management, where the non-human factors of production and the human factors of production, 6 and 6, are interspersed with one value called spiritual value. It comes in between. Commodity and other things, one. Machine, commodity, all are one. There is staff, etc., second. In between comes the spiritual value, superordinate goals, as they call it. Matrix, 7 matrix theory of production. So in that connection, this subject comes in. The people who come to work, they are human beings. They have their own life, their own ambitions, their own development as human beings. Will this industry help them to do so? If it doesn't, we just make them into robots, mere machines. And that's what is happening more and more. In fact, Bertrand Russell has said that today's industrial philosophy is man is a small machine and the other is a big machine. And this, though we manipulate that machine, but a worker begins to feel, I am nothing compared to this machine. Before this huge machine, who am I? This mechanization of the human being has gone so far. I am telling Bertrand Russell's reference to this matter. It has come to a stage when a human laboring person will go to a factory with flowers in hand and worship that big machine, saying, "Oh machine, make me a good nut and bolt in your system. I am only a nut and bolt in your system." This kind of dehumanization is bound to come. That should be avoided. Millions of people form the workforce. Their human feelings, human aspirations must be fulfilled. A spiritual value must come in. This shloka 46 of the Gita 18th chapter emphasizes at that point the spiritual value attached to work. Because I am a laborer, I am not a machine. If it is a mere robot, you can make the robot work and put him and lock him in a small room there, a storeroom, that's all. Next day again you take him out. But I am not like that. After the work I go, I have got my family, I have got my own interests in life, I must carry on in this way. How do I get benefit from this? Not at all. This is different, that is different. This gulf between work and life is dangerous for both work and life. That must be bridged. The only thing that can bridge is the spiritual stress on the true nature of man. That is the meaning of this sloka. From that supreme reality we have come. Even now it is part and parcel of us. It is our own inner self. We have not divorced ourselves from it, except when we neglect it. Don't neglect it. Even as an industrial worker, don't neglect that supreme spiritual reality is the inner self of all. The great idea of work, therefore, is as yoga. Work as yoga. That's why the whole theme from second chapter that is going on. Work is efficiency by which you produce goods and services for the community. You also grow spiritually. Qualitatively you get enriched thereby. That kind of work is yoga. So be a yogi. Krishna will say to every worker. Krishna will say to every being, be a yogi. Tasmat yogi bhava Arjuna. That yogi, not running after magic and miracles, not that yogi. Real worker, efficient worker, producing goods and services and remaining fulfilled as a result of the work itself. A mere mechanical robot factory. This restoring human being to his or her dignity and worth is very important in today's industrial civilization. The books, this particular book, Art of Japanese Management, wishes to tell our readers that the Japanese philosophy of management contains that ingredient by which the laborer will not lose his soul. He will not be a commodity, a marketable commodity. That is very important. Therefore, they tell us here the principal difference, I am quoting some words, between Eastern institutions and those in the West is that ours turn to organizational structure and formed systems to cope with these challenges. In contrast, Eastern institutions, while until recently advancing more slowly in thinking about organizational forms and formal systems, paid much more attention to social and spiritual means. And then the word spiritual, he says, is a very strange word in corporate institutions. Yet nothing less suffices to capture the strong belief system that underlies Japanese art of management. And he says, one particular statement is very interesting from this point of view. Yes, we have to, the inherent preferences of organizations are clarity, certainty, and perfection. When you deal with fixed material things, you need to deal with it with clarity and certainty and perfection. But the inherent nature of human relationship involves ambiguity, uncertainty, and imperfection. You are not dealing with a machine. Machine can be perfect, but a human being cannot be perfect. These two are there. Two factors are there. The machine and the human being. Then he says, how does one honor, balance, and integrate the needs of both is the real trick of management. Imprecision must also be given a place, not only precision. Human beings are never absolutely precise. I said last Sunday that an animal has a mechanistic system in the body. It will eat only exactly what the body needs, not one drop more than that it will drink. That's the nature of the animal system. Man commits a lot of blunders in these matters. More freedom has come. We have to take account of that particular situation. Don't expect perfection in every way. Some little latitude must be given to human imperfections also. So when you do these two, then you have a better harmonious relationship in industrial protection and better human beings associated with that project. And therefore, in this sloka, you have this stress. Today's industrial production is very difficult to incorporate a spiritual value. I said, most of it is dull action. Stand in a queue, just like this, things are coming, you do a certain thing to a particular mechanical process, and you do the same thing, repeat it whole day, and your work is over. That makes it very dull. After some time you also feel you are a machine. In spite of that, if the philosophy includes this wider reference of the spiritual in life, then we can convert that dull work also into something meaningful. It is the challenge. There is no other way to improve the human situation. Let us not drain joy from work. Let us put back joy in work and find other joys later. Don't make it entirely a drudgery. In fact, the drudgery philosophy has gone very far today. A mother dealing with its own baby feels drudgery in doing that work for the baby. There's also drudgery. I want to seek pleasure elsewhere. There are instances where mothers have left their babies at home, gone away, expecting somebody to come to look after. Somebody did not come, and that baby died away. Many such instances come in the newspapers because I am searching for joy. I don't get it in this work. What can be more sad than this? That caring for a baby doesn't give me any joy at all. My joy is there, not here. That's the attitude of mind. That is most dangerous for the human being. That's what we have to realize. That is the significance of this great verse. Yatah pravrittir bhutanam yena sarvamidam tatam. Tatam means pervaded, by which the whole universe is pervaded, is near to us, near to everyone, is the supreme reality. It's not there, but here also. It is nearest to us, it is also far away. By worshipping Him or that reality with our work, sakarmana tam abhyachya siddhim vindati manavaha. A bit of this philosophy and outlook incorporated into one's work process can improve that work and improve the human being who does the work. That is the importance of this philosophy. And so, verse 47 continues this topic in a very fine statement. It says, Shreyan swadharmo vigunaha paradharmat svanushthitat swadharme detitam shreya paradharmo bhayavaha. This had come earlier in the 3rd chapter also to some extent. It says here, better is one's own dharma, though imperfect, than the dharma of another person well performed. This is my dharma, but I am doing it not so perfectly. Somebody's dharma I am doing perfectly. That's not correct. This is far better. Swadharma. The word dharma has come again. We have already discussed it earlier. Svabhava niyatam karma kurvan na apnoti tidbisham. Whatever you do, dictated by your own innate disposition. Svabhava niyatam. Your own svabhava. What you are really. That is dictating what work you do. That means your soul is finding expression in your work. That work is a soulful work. Stay in it. That other man's work seems to be better, more attractive. Never do so. You must express your own soul in your work. Maybe not so fine as somebody else's work. Don't leave it. Don't run after something else. That's the language here. Svabhava niyatam karma kurvan. Doing action dictated by one's own true nature. Bhava. Na apnoti kidbisham. He doesn't incur any evil. The other is poisonous. To follow somebody else's, that is not good, this is not good, that is better, that is better. And as an endless process, we go on changing. I like that better. No faith in oneself, no faith in one's own subhava. That is really bad. We have a saying in our society, a cow is grazing and looks across the river and finds more grass there. They find more grass there. So I will go there, I will go there, I will go there. Here is nothing, there is better. He will never graze at all. Wherever you are, graze first there. Similarly, the human mind loses its faith in itself, its own field of work, running after some other field of work. Bhayavaha, Krishna had said earlier, that is really harmful, fearful, giving up one's own, have faith in one's own. Therefore, Subhava Niyatam Karma. Any karma that is dictated by one's own Subhava is better to perform than some other type of karma. So that is the important guidance given to the human mind. The mind is very fickle. It goes on changing, no stability. Therefore, it is good to first determine one's own Subhava. How can I express my soul in a particular field of work? If you can get it, all the better. As I said earlier, that society is the best where everyone can get the work dictated by his or her own Subhava. It's only a very developed society can get it. In our society today, we cannot get exactly what is dictated by one's own nature. We have to be content with some other type of work. That shows we are undeveloped in every way. Therefore, we have to achieve a measure of satisfaction, even a little away from one's own Subhava at this stage. But a further stage will come when society has developed. I can get my own soulful work near about me. I did not run about here and there. That comes from a highly developed situation in a society. Then he gives one more touch to this teaching. Sahajam karma kaunte sadosham apinat tyajed sarvarambhahi doshena dhumena agnivavrutaha. What a simple language, so precise meaning. Sahajam, sahajam, born with you. The karma that is born with you is called sahajam. Actually it means spontaneous, natural. Sahajam means natural, spontaneous. Sahajam karma, the karma that is dictated by my own nature, is sahajam karma. Kaunteya, Arjuna, sadosham api, even though there may be some evil in it, some defect in it, natyajed, don't give it up. Why? Every karma has some defect or the other. No karma is absolutely free from defect. There is a tremendous statement. Sahajam karma kaunteya, sadosham api, natyajed. Why? Sarva arambhahi doshena. All arambhas, all actions are with some evil or the other, some defect or the other. Like fire, agniriva. Some smoke is there, maybe high, maybe low, but some smoke is there. When you light a fire, some smoke is bound to be associated with it. And so, sarvarambhahi doshena, dhumena, agniriva, avrutaha. These doshas are surrounding every type of work. Perfect work is not there. In this imperfect world, there is nothing perfect. The only perfect is the Infinite One. He or she has to realize this truth. We have to discover that imperfect in discover the perfect in the imperfect. That is our effort. Through the imperfect, you realize the perfect. That's something very wonderful. Even though this body is imperfect, with the help of it, we are achieving the perfect itself. The finite helping us to achieve the infinite. The time-bound helping us to achieve the timeless and the immortal. What a great intelligence it is. In the Mahabharata there is that verse, Esha buddhimatam buddhihi, manisha cha manishinam, yat satyam, amrite neha, marte napnoti ma amritam. The Lord is saying there, himself is saying, a human being is extremely clever if he or she can achieve me, the immortal and the infinite, through instruments, mortal and finite, like the body and the mind and the senses. That is, Esha Buddhimatam Buddhihi. This is the real Buddhimatta of the Buddhiman, the real intelligence of the intelligent people. Manisha cha Manishanam, the wisdom of the wise people. What is that? Yena, by which, with this imperfect, finite body and other instruments, we realize the Lord who is infinite and immortal and true. How can we do it? But we are achieving it. So that is type of cleverness, intelligence, which we emphasize. Esha buddhimatam buddhihi, manisha cha manishinam, yat satyam, that truth. Through asatya, through anitya, we realize. Body is asatya, body is anartha. And anitya, we realize it through this body. Yat satyam, anarti neha, he says. Apnoti ma amritam, he says. Nityena atmoti, we achieve the highest thereby. So sahajam karma kaunteya, sadoshamapi nyatyajed. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, however careful you may be, when you live in a sooty room, a little soot will stick to you. Now don't expect to be absolutely perfect in this world of work. There is always some imperfection sticking to you. Don't mind it. Reduce it to the minimum. That's all what we can do, because the world is imperfect. And so, Krishna says here regarding work, work is imperfect, but through this imperfect work, we are going to realize the perfect one, our own infinite perfection. Sarvarambha hidoshena, all arambhas are covered with some dosha, some defect, like fire covered with a little smoke. Now, let us develop a correct attitude to work. We are working in various fields. We have to maintain our physical existence through work. We have also to get a boost towards our own higher life through that work. That is the greatest advantage Gita gives you through work. So he says, Asatta buddhi sarvatra jitatma vikata jvaraha vikata spruhaha naishkarma siddhim paramam sannyasena adhigacchati. This attitude of mind, asakta drishti, detachment. Buddhi is free from attachment. Asakta buddhi. Buddhi works, is functioning, but it is detached. To that extent it is calm. Attachment makes for a little excitement, but detachment makes for calmness. Asakta buddhi, sarvatra. In all fields of life, the buddhi has been evolved with a spirit of detachment, so it can take any amount of responsibility without feeling the weight of it. Carry a weight without feeling you have a weight. That's what asakta buddhi means. We do carry a weight. I have seen people with very little responsibility, swearing all the time, getting excited all the time, very little responsibility only. There are people with heavy responsibility, with a smile all the time. You can see the difference between the two. Asakta buddhi, sarvatra. The buddhi has been trained, has been evolved with tremendous power to carry heavy burdens with a smile. What must be that tremendous development? Asakta buddhi sarvatra, jitatma. He has conquered himself, conquered oneself. Vikata spruha. Tremendous cravings have gone away from the heart. Vikata spruha. Spruha is that externally moving craving. That spruha is gone. Vikata spruha. Such a person attains naishkarma siddhi, perfect non-doing state in which you are doing nothing, naishkarmya. According to traditional monastic life, a person must be a naishkarmya, without any work. He has no work to do. Why? He has no desire. If there is no desire, there is no need to work. It is desire that makes us work. So this is called naishkarma siddhi. We achieve perfect naishkarmya. But it is not a mere physical abolition of work, because physical abolition can remain with any amount of kama within, desires within. This one is, work is going on. but he has achieved Naishkarma Bhava. That is the type of renunciation Gita is teaching us, Naishkarma Siddhim Paramam. When a person has no desire in the heart, he goes into that state of Naishkarmya, free from all action, because there is no impelling force for action called desire. But if he acts, it is due to some other force of love, force of compassion. That action can be. There is no excitement about it. So Naishkarma Siddhi is a wonderful language in Vedanta. Krishna is bringing the blessing of that to an average worker, an industrial worker, a housewife. He or she can achieve Naishkarma Siddhi by this training in Asakta Buddhi, Vikata Spruha. That excitement is gone. Pure love has come in the heart. All smoothness comes in. Like a door making a lot of creaking noises, put a drop of oil, all the creaking goes. The movements continue, but no creaking is there. That is possible in human life. Why this shouting and howling at the time of work? There is so little efficiency in the human being concerned. But when strength comes, you do heavy work without any noise, without any creaking as it were. So that is called Naishkarma Siddhi. Lot of work is being done, you feel it's not work at all. You carry light, burdens very light, though you have a heavy burden on your head. That is the strength that comes from this spiritual discipline of work. Naishkarma Siddhim Paramam Sannyasena. That is real sannyasa. You renounce all cravings. You renounce all little self-centered attitudes. Some new strength comes to you. You evolve buddhi in your psychic energy system. That buddhi is nearest to the infinite Atman behind. That buddhi is the greatest asset that we can have in human life. Therefore Krishna tells everyone, develop that buddhi. Depend upon such a buddhi when it comes. You get everything out of it. So, Dadami buddhi yogam tam. I gave buddhi yoga to such people. That buddhi is everything. Through that buddhi, you will achieve the highest. So, Naishkarma Siddhim Paramam Sannyasena Adhikachati. He or she whose intellect is unattached, buddhi is unattached everywhere, who has subdued his heart, his or her heart, whose desires have fled, attains by renunciation to the supreme perfection consisting of freedom from action. Action and yet freedom from action. This has been repeatedly stated in the Gita. Action and yet there is no friction coming from action. It becomes inaction. Where there is no friction, it is as good as inaction. So action becomes inaction is the language of the 4th chapter. And many sages have taught this subject. I especially like the Confucian and Taoist teaching on the subject. Act, and yet you are not acting at all. That spontaneity comes to you. That is the goal of all action. So in all these high literature, you find this idea expressed in action. The greatest actions are done when you are not in action, when you are not feeling that you are acting. Silent, quiet action, that's the greatest action. Any noisy action is no action. You don't know the nature of action. We think without excitement, there is no action at all. That's not correct. Excitement is a sign of your own inefficiency. The more efficient you are, the less noise you will make at the time of action, and yet achieve great purposes by your own action. It is just like the jet plane doesn't make noise to the extent as the little auto that does in our streets, but it goes 500 miles, is only 10 miles speed. So much of noise is there. When the machine becomes efficient, noise becomes less and less, speed becomes more and more. And so, Asakta Buddhi, Sarvatra, these are some of the great ideas which will revolutionize the human situation. Detachment. What exactly is wonderful teaching of detachment? I am working, I am dealing with human beings, and yet inside there is a tremendous sense of detachment. Zest in life and yet detachment. These two must go together. Normally they do not go together. When I have zest in life, I am deeply attached. When I am detached, I become apathetic. I don't concern myself with anybody. So, ordinary kind of detachment. You have seen in the houses, some people develop what you call the apathetic attitude. In psychology, it is called apathia. Apathia means no interest in anything. Simply sit in a dark corner, sit like this. That's called apathia. High state of mind it is externally. Internally, it is very pitiable state. There is no interest in anything. He has not evolved his mind. So apathetic attitude is not a high state. But a high state expresses itself as that apathetic attitude. Absolutely calm and quiet, but full of interest in welfare of people around. If you can combine these two, that is the highest. Man can achieve such contradictory things in one's life. You have seen it in the 12th chapter. Can you become very, very fearless and at the same time gentle? 12th chapter. Such a person is my true devotee, Krishna said. Very fearless and very gentle. Doesn't happen in society. When you are fearless, you become a source of fear to other people. And when you are gentle, everybody can frighten you also. These are the things we see normally. But no, you can achieve intense fearlessness and intense gentleness as well. Similarly here, tremendous detachment and tremendous concern for the happiness and welfare of all. That is the type of mind Krishna wants us to evolve. The whole world will be a heaven tomorrow if a good number of people develop these qualities. That is what Krishna is going to say later on. We can develop a perfect society by a proper philosophy of life and work getting implemented in day-to-day life. So he says, having achieved this siddhi, or perfection, what happens to him? Siddhim prapto yatha brahma tathatnoti nibodhame samasenaiva kauteya nishtha jnanasya para. Having achieved that kind of perfection in this daily life, in the field of work, how do you attain the highest Brahman? Siddhim prapto. Learn from me, in brief, how reaching such perfection a person attains to Brahman, that supreme consummation of all knowledge. What is Brahman? Jnanasya para nishtha. That is Brahman. The process of knowledge reaches its consummation in the realization of Brahman. It's a wonderful statement. Look at a baby, newly born. It is interested in pleasure and comfort. But very soon you find it is seeking for light, seeking for knowledge, looking here, looking there, puzzled. Wonder. In the newborn baby's eyes you can see a tremendous sense of wonder. Where have I come? From that confined place of my mother's womb, I've been thrown into this wonderful world. What is this I see around it? That's a kind of wonder that is actuating a newborn child. And we know, in the English language we say, wonder is the beginning of knowledge. Without wonder, you can't develop knowledge at all. So the child, through that wonder, becomes a seeker of knowledge, asking this, asking that of the mother, then going to school, going to college, developing oneself into a great scientist. This is called search for knowledge. Where does it end? In the realization of Brahman. Vedantic statement is, Brahman is the consummation of all knowledge. The language used by Shankaracharya in the commentary on the Brahma Sutras. Atma egatva vidya pratipattaye sarve vedanta arabhyante. All Vedantas are geared to the attainment of the unity of the self. We are all essentially one. There's only one infinite self in the whole universe. And so, that is realized in experience, not merely intellectually conceived. Anubhava avasanam, Brahma Vijnanam. Knowledge of Brahman consummates in the experience of Brahman. That's called consummation of experience there. Anubhava avasanam. Brahma Vijnanam. Knowledge of Brahman, the baby started with knowledge of Brahman in various departments of life. Its own body, the little world around it, the beginning. All is Brahman. The whole universe is nothing but Brahman. Takes a little section, the baby tries to understand. Then, as it grows, understands more. This reaches its consummation in that Brahma Anubhava. Anubhava Avasanam. You realize Brahman, the infinite one. So, Brahma Vijnanam is Anubhava Avasanam. All experiences get their final consummation in that experience of Brahman, the all, the infinite. That is language there. So I shall tell you how this is done, how we achieve Brahman realization from this stage where you have attained this perfection in action, that spirit of detachment, that tremendous freedom from all cravings and renunciation of all action in inaction. From this you realize that oneness with Brahman. How do you do so? I shall tell you about it, says Krishna. Buddhya vishuddhaya yukto trityatmanam niyamya cha shabdadin vishayan tyatva ragadvesho yudasya cha. Some of the spiritual training programs of the human mind and the senses are contained here. Endued with buddhi, that pure intellect, subduing the body and the senses with fortitude, with courage, with dhriti. Relinquishing sound and such other sense objects means overcoming their hold on you, become free from them, and abandoning attraction and hatred, love and hatred, attachment and hatred. Mind is being taken from dualities, from contrary experiences. Vivikta sevi, ledvashi, yadavakaya manasaha, dhyana yoga paro nityam, vairagyam supashrataha. Various mental states are mentioned in spiritual practices, resorting to a sequestered place, quiet place for sadhana purposes, eating but little, body, speech and mind control, ever engaged in meditation and concentration, possessed of dispassion. These are the various processes which we do to attain that state of mind which can realize Brahman, preparing the mind for it. Ahankaram, balam, darpam, kamam, krodham, parigraham, vimuchya, nirmama shanto, brahma bhoyaya kalpate. Forsaking the egoistic attitude, the ego, the fat ego that is within. We forsake it, ahankaram, a sense of power, we renounce it. Pride, we overcome it. Lust, anger, a sense of property, holding, all this, free from the notion of mind and remaining the mind in tranquil state. The notion of I and mine, that makes you small. And renounce it, you develop tranquility or shanti. Yes. That person is fit for becoming Brahman. All this is achieved in the field of life and work itself. Change is coming in the human individual. We have seen the change from a baby onwards, but that baby change is only very limited. As you grow older, enter into wider departments of life, you grow still more. And yet, still more there are to be developed. All that is mentioned together, that within this life, we are training the mind to become fit for that Brahman realization. Brahma bhuto, become one with Brahman. The mind becomes one with attuned with the infinite. Ahankaram, balam, darpam, kamam, krodham, parigraham, vimachya, nirmama shanto, Brahma bhuyaya kalpate. It becomes fit, kalpate becomes fit, Brahma bhuyaya, to become one with Brahman. That's all our work. Train the mind, make it fit. In all through Vedanta you will find the only thing you have to do is to make the mind fit for the purpose for which you are engaged. So for a work, you must make the mind fit for that particular work. Here, beyond all work, there is a certain achievement to be had in this life, realizing the supreme truth. Prepare the mind for it, removing all obstacles, boundaries, limitations. That's what mind has to be trained all the time. Limited love, limited hate, limited interest must slowly be overcome. Unlimited it becomes, like the infinite sky around. That is the training we have to give to the mind. External environments may sometimes thwart our purpose, but in spite of that, we have to overcome these environments. When I was in Delhi, I used to go to old Delhi. Little lanes are there, very 5 feet wide. Not a single sunlight ever comes inside. Suppose I am living there my lifetime. My life is very constricted, very limited. If I climb to the top, I can see a little sky, nothing otherwise. So if my mind becomes narrow like that, when the body is put in a narrow space, that will be very bad for the mind. In spite of that situation, mind must become wider and wider. This is how we have to handle our life situation. If circumstances are favorable, well and good. Even otherwise, I must achieve that widening of my horizon by training the mind in wider and wider horizons of human life and achievement. So he says that this particular situation, vimacya nirmama shanto brahma bhuyaya kalpate, fitting the mind for becoming Brahman, what we are trying to do, that must be achieved by everyone.
More or less, but the direction is the same. That itself is a great joy. When you have a high aim,
and you are going a little in that direction, you must be satisfied. It's not that, but the going towards itself is a wonderful thing. The traveling itself is a joy, not only reaching the end of the traveling. Brahma bhuta prasannatma na shochati na kamshati samas sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim devate param. Such a person who has become one with Brahman, Brahma bhuta, prasannatma, his inner life is absolutely prasanna, tranquil, serene. Shochati na kamshati, he is free from these various contradictions of life, excessive joy, excessive sorrow, depression. He is free from all this. A certain balance has come within. Samas sarveshu bhuteshu, feeling his oneness with all beings, a sense of equality with all beings. Sarveshu bhuteshu, mad bhaktim labhate param. He gets supreme devotion to me, the infinite self of all. Mad bhaktim labhate param. Supreme bhakti. Ordinary bhakti we have seen, a sort of contractual bhakti. You go to Tirupati, offer 5 rupees, expect some return from that. If the return is not there, we may not even go. But this bhakti is one-sided, one-pointed. No question of contract, or buying and selling. Pure love of bhakti is called, pure love of God. Mad bhaktim labhate param. Such a person gets that pure bhakti to the divine. In the Bhagavatam, 11th book, there are so many verses dealing with who is a true Bhagavata, who is a true devotee. Very often you will find every sentence ending with, that is real Bhagavata, that is real Bhagavata. So many beautiful statements are there. If a fraction of it, if you can achieve, it will be a great thing. Love of God. All love is included in that love of God, because God is all. He is in the heart of all. That's why it is all, the idea. A devotee of God is a lover of all, because his God is in everyone. In the Narada Bhakti Sutra and other places you will always find this teaching that to a devotee God is present in every being. No hatred, only love and compassion can come from such a devotee, because he finds his divine in the heart of all beings. That is his line of thinking, line of spiritual practice. Mad bhaktim labhate param. Then when you develop that bhakti, then you understand what is God, what is all this life. All this truth will shine only in that state. Till then it is all trying to understand. This is real understanding. Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan yachasmi tattvataha. Through bhakti, you understand what is God, what is His relevance, what is His infinite scope. All that you understand only when that pure bhakti comes to you. By devotion, He knows me. In reality, tattvataha, in reality, what and who I am. What is this Ishvara? We are Bhagavan, whom we love. What is His dimension? What is His nature, etc. Tato mam tattvato jnatva. Having known me in truth and in reality, he or she enters into me, becomes one with me. Vishate tadanantaram. He or she enters into the divine. In all mystical literature, Christian, Sufi, Hindu, Buddhist, etc., you will find this type of consummation. You enter into the divine. You are one with the divine. That is your goal. This detachment, this separation, you feel you are alien, somewhere alienation as we call it, alienated from the divine. No, we must return, we must return. That feeling is there. That makes you struggle. That makes you struggle. That makes you dissatisfied. You get money, you are dissatisfied. Power, you are dissatisfied. Always the mind is striving for something else, something else. That is true. That something else is there within you. You are looking for it. So in all mystical literature you will find this striving ends when that realization comes. Perfect peace, fulfillment becomes achieved at that time. So, tato mam tattvato jnatva. Knowing me what I am in truth, tattvato, vishate tadanantaram. He or she enters into me, becomes one with me. The river starting from Gangotri, going through various countries, finally reaching the ocean in Bay of Bengal. That river has found its consummation in the ocean. It came from the ocean, it is going back to the ocean. We are all in that way. We have come from Him and we go back unto Him, that supreme reality. That is how all spiritual philosophies discuss this goal of human life. Ultimately, becoming one with the divine, everybody shall become. That is our goal. We have it already within us, and that is pushing us like that, unknowingly towards that direction. That is satisfaction. When you achieve something better, something higher, go on. That dissatisfaction is the nature of the human heart. No other animal has dissatisfaction like that. Only the man has, because he has confidence of something profound holding me. Not knowing where it is, we are searching for it. That's why in our literature we give the example of the cow of the Tibetan areas of having that particular animal with a little bit of this scent within. And that scent makes it run about here and there. Ultimately it sits quiet and finds coming from within itself. That is the scent. That is the nature of this spiritual quest according to our mystical literature. So we shall continue this next Sunday, a few more verses of this last chapter of the Gita. Before we close, I have got two announcements to make. That is, on the 14th is the Sri Krishna Janmashtami, and so that day we will have at 6:30 p.m. the daily evening Arati, and at 7 p.m. reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam dealing with Krishna's birth. That is, on the 14th is the Sri Krishna Janmashtami, and so that day we will have at 6:30 p.m. the daily evening Arati, and at 7 p.m. reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam dealing with Krishna's birth.